Hi and welcome to this DCP web tutorial. In today's tutorial we're going to convert the bookkeeping system we created previously for VAT registered businesses. So if I open up the web browser, let's just quickly check where we left off. So when I open up the web browser, if I go to playlist here on my YouTube channel, and if I scroll down here into the playlist, we had this section here, full playlist here. So I'm going to click here for small business bookkeeping tutorial. I just want to quickly show you that we created these three Excel spreadsheets. One was for invoice tracking, one was for creating an invoice template, and one was for expenditure tracking. So today we want to convert this system so that it can work for VAT registered businesses. So if I close down the web browser, let's just minimize it for the moment and open up this folder. Let's just do a quick fast summary of what we did in the previous three tutorials, because I did them quite a while ago. A lot of people on YouTube were asking, how do we create this for VAT registered businesses? So I want to show you that today. The one thing I would say is if you haven't been through those three tutorials, I would advise you do that first, and I'll put links to those in the YouTube description because you're going to need that knowledge in order to follow the fourth part of this tutorial. So let's open up this invoice tracker quickly, and I'll just explain what you see on the screen very briefly, but I want you to go and watch the actual tutorial for this first part. This was the first part, and that will explain it in more detail. But in essence, what we've got here is a spreadsheet, and this spreadsheet we keep it for 1 year, and when at the end of the year we need to give our accountant some records of what business we've done and who has paid us and who hasn't paid us, what debts we have and so forth, right? Who owes us money and who has paid us. So we've got a list of invoices, invoice dates, invoice numbers, the date things were paid, how it was paid, the reference, the description of what work we did for the customer. We've got the company name here, right? Who are we going to be billing? And we also have the location of the company, the cost, and whether the invoice was paid or not. So we capture all of that data first into a spreadsheet. And then once every week or once every month, you go to your bank system and you work out who has paid you, and then you just mark them off green here and tick them off as paid. So it's quite a simple spreadsheet, but it's worked very well for me for the last 16 years. I've not had a problem with this. And the nice thing about this system is you don't have to pay any monthly fees. It's just spreadsheets, right? And you can do this in OpenOffice. You can do this in LibreOffice. You don't have to use Excel, but I'm just using Excel in this case. So I'm going to close this, and I'm not going to save this. The second part of the tutorial, we looked at invoices and we created this invoice template. So we custom built this invoice template in Excel, and that allowed us to take content from that previous spreadsheet and actually create an invoice. So once we created this in Excel, we would save it. So here you can see some examples. We never save over the invoice template. That's our template, and we just reuse this template to create many invoices. And in the end, you will have an invoice as a PDF file that will send directly to our customer, right? And they'll make payment and then we'll track it. But if you notice, there's no VAT calculations in here. It's just the unit price, the net price, and the total cost. So we want to incorporate VAT calculations into these documents so that we can now calculate VAT as well. The final tutorial, we looked at expenditure. So if I open this one up, as we've got money coming into our business, we also want to track money going out of our business. So if we buy a laptop computer, if we buy stamps for posting, buy a domain, whatever we're buying within our business, we also want to keep track of those costs as well in a spreadsheet. So you may have staff wages and so forth, right? So we have different types of content that we want to track, but it's very simple. First thing we want to do is track how many invoices have we sent out, the total value, who we're sending them to, and how whether those customers or our clients have paid us. That's the first thing. Then we want to create an invoice template so that we can actually generate those invoices. And then third thing, we want to track our expenditure. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is really modify this system, right? So I would advise that we create a new folder, because if you follow my previous tutorials, then there's no point in overwriting this. We might just make a copy and then we can work from that copy. So I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this folder, let's just call it 04 for the moment, and we'll call this VAT bookkeeping system, yeah, something like this. And then we'll select all of these folders, everything except for that VAT bookkeeping folder. I'm going to right click and then drag to this folder, holding down the right mouse button. I'm going to say copy here. So basically I'm copying everything else here that's highlighted into this folder. So now we've got a new folder with duplicate content, and then we can create our invoice VAT bookkeeping system from the existing content. So if you have, like I said, if you haven't been through the first 3 tutorials, I'd advise you go and do that first, and you should end up with something very similar to what you see here. So I'm going to open up the invoice tracker. Let's open that quickly. And we want to do VAT calculations in here. Now normally I've got a bit more screen to share or to see, but I've set this to a lower resolution for YouTube. So for now I'm just going to drag this this column across, so I've got some space to work here on the side, right? So we just shrink these down temporarily, or you could zoom out, right? But I don't really want to zoom out. I want to zoom in quite close so you can see things quite clearly. So we've got cost here, right? And this was just a cost, and really what we want to do is calculate VAT against this cost, because this is our base cost and we want to calculate VAT. So I'm going to click on column J, I'm going to right click and then say insert. Right, so we get a new column here, and then I'm going to right click on column J again, right click and click insert. And this is really no longer cost, this is now X VAT. It's cost excluding VAT. And we want to add VAT on top of this. So we want the VAT amount, and then the final column here we want to type in INC including VAT. So how do we calculate the VAT? It's really simple. We click on this VAT cell, or we click on this particular cell, this one right here, and we type in the equal sign, equals, and then we click on this cell here. So this cell here will equal this particular cell, and then in here we want to type in the multiplication, which is the shift key and number 8, which is that little star sign. So if you look on your keyboard, look at the number 8 key, and you have this little star sign that represents multiplication, right? So we want to calculate VAT. So 150, which is this value here, multiplied by 0.2, and I'm going to hit the enter key, and that will give me 20% of this value here, 20%, right? And I'm going to show you how to calculate different values of percentages based on the country you're located in. But if you're based in the UK, we charge right now 20%. Before it was 17.5%. Right, so VAT changes not very often, the amount that you charge, but sometimes it changes. And now we want to calculate the total value. So that's very easy. We type in the equal sign and we click on this one, this sign, this value here, and then we put in the plus sign, and then we click on this one and we hit enter. So the total value, 150 plus £30 equals 180. Now I'm going to select these two columns, these two here, these two, and I'm going to click on the right hand bottom corner here, and I'm going to drag all the way down, like this. In fact, we won't do that yet. Normally when you do that, I'm going to do it right now. I'm just going to show you what happens. When I do that, it will automatically calculate all of the VAT, right, for all of the different rows. But I don't want to do that right now, so I'm going to press Control Z. And the reason that I don't want to do that right now is I want to show you how to calculate values at different percentages. So to make your life easy, let's take this £100, this 150, and let's just temporarily change it to 100. So we can calculate VAT off of 100 very easily, right? 20% of 100 will be £20, right? That's the VAT amount, and then the total amount will be this plus this equals 120. So working from £100 figure just makes the maths a lot easier, right? Or £200, for example. So if we type in £200 here, we expect this to turn to 40, and this will be 240. So let's type in 200, left click outside, 240, 240. Let's change it back to 100. And we want to now calculate, let's say that we want to calculate 5%. So instead of having 0.2, if we double click in this cell, it says 0.2. We want to do 0.05, and that will be 5%. So if we hit enter, £100, 5% of £100 is £5, and then the total will be 105. If we double click in here and we want it to calculate 15%, then we just put a 1 in here. 15, so it's 0.15, hit enter, now it's 15, right? 100, 15% of that will be 15. If we want to calculate 17.5% at a decimal, we do 175. Yeah, that's 17.5%. If we hit enter, £100, 17.5% of 100 would be £17.50, and this is your total value. So we could easily change the value here to reflect how much VAT we want to charge. So we want to charge 20%, we type in 20. If you want to charge 10%, you would type in 10. Right, hit enter, now you've got 10%. If you want to charge, let's say for example, 40%, you will type in 0.4 or 0.4, yeah, 0.4 will be 40%. So I'm sure, hopefully you understand that. If you want to calculate 45%, then it will be 45, and then it's 45, right? If you want to calculate 45.2% for some random reason, then it's 45, and then a 2 at the end. Now it's 45.2%. So just changing these three values here will determine how much percentage you charge. So we're going to type in 20. We want 20. The only reason I didn't copy those cells down before is I wanted to show you the different types of ways of calculating VAT based on your country. Now, I don't know where you're based, but I assume in America there's a different VAT calculation, in Australia and so forth. There's different values. So all you do is just double click and change this last little value here. Right now it's set to 20. If you want 80%, you type in 8, and then it will be 80%. Let's set it back to 20, because now what we want to do is auto calculate all of these other values. Yeah, we could just copy the values down, the actual formula, but the best way to do this is just to left click and select. So hold down the left mouse button and select both these cells, and then in the bottom right hand corner there'll be this tiny little square box. You left click on that, hold down the left mouse button and drag all the way down, and then it's going to calculate all the VAT and all the calculations for all of these rows, right? So I'm going to just click here and highlight these particular ones that are in blue and go back to here and then set the whole row back to blue, right? Because these ones now you can see these like green here. We don't want that. So let's just drag here and then set it back to blue. So now we have all of the VAT calculations. So we can click here and delete this, and then we can left click here or left click here and then hold down the left mouse button, and then we can click Autosum and click here, and it will calculate all of the rows here. So this is our total excluding VAT. This is the total VAT amount for all of these values, and this is the total including VAT. So now we can quite clearly see, if we're running a business, really this is what we're earning, £3,517.50. That's what we earn. This is what Mr. Taxman will take from us, and this is the total amount that we will be charging for all of these invoices to our customers, right? So let's just do one example and add another row, because we haven't really done that in this particular spreadsheet, including VAT. So we're just going to add a new line, and we want the date, right? So I did this tutorial like ages ago. It was like in 2019, so it's almost coming up to 2 years, to be fair. So today is actually the 17th of the 10th 2020, but I'm just actually going to carry on from this date because it will make more sense. I'm just going to drag down one, and it will turn it into 18. So remember, you can do series filling like I explained in my last tutorial. So imagine if you want to invoice on the 18th or even the 21st, all I do is just left click in the bottom right hand corner, drag down, and let's say you want to invoice on the 21st of the 1st, just double click in and change the 18 to 21. That's much easier than typing in this whole date. This one you never need to change, right? You just drag it down and it's a new invoice number, job done. And then all of these other three cells will remain blank because we're making this invoice right now, so we can't get paid straight away, right? We have to send the invoice to the customer, so these values will always be empty, and this is examples of when people paid us. Like I said, watch the first tutorial. I'll put a link to that in the YouTube description. And here we're going to we're going to put in some sort of description of what we did. I'm just going to do something simple like let's just do logo design ×3, right? And then we did it for a company called Joe Limited, right? I'm just making this up, and they're based in the UK, and we're going to charge them £100 for this work, 100. And as soon as we type in 100, let's just delete that. Basically what's happening here, in fact I'm just going to do Control-Z. When we right click here and insert a new row, right? So when we right click and insert a new row, Excel is automatically copying the formulas that go in here, yeah? But you can't see anything in here because there's no value in there. So as soon as you type in 100 and then left click outside, it's going to do the VAT calculations, everything for you automatically. So this saves you a lot of time. The only thing we need to do is copy this and then paste it down and then save it. So we know £100 plus 20% equals £20, and then the total value will be 120. Now we have that information in the spreadsheet, we can go and modify our Excel invoice for VAT calculations as well. In fact, we're going to do one other thing. What we'll do actually is logo design, and we're going to type in website design. I want this invoice to have more than one particular value, right? Website design, and I'm just going to make this a little bit easy. So let's say the logo was £100 and let's just say the website was 800. So the total value will be 900. So we'll type in 900 here, £100 for the logos, £800 for the website, £900 total, yeah? This is our VAT and this is our total price. Let's save this. Okay, so now that we've got the data in the spreadsheet, we want to go to the invoice system and modify it so that it can work with VAT. So let's minimize this for the moment and let's go into our invoices. And we've already prepared some invoices here previously, right? But we want to update this template in here so that it could calculate VAT. So almost we can kind of say that we started our business, and normally you don't have to VAT register until a certain point in your business, in the UK that is, right? So let's just open up this spreadsheet and we want to modify it so that it works with VAT calculations. So let's just sort out these line rows here quickly. What I'm going to do is just delete all this information. I'm just going to delete it all, right? Just get rid of it. And we want a new invoice number in here. So let's just go to File. In fact, let's not delete this content. I'm going to press Ctrl Z. Because remember, this is our template, right? So let's think about this. In fact, no, that's actually okay. What we do is delete this and we're just going to save it. And we're going to put in some new information in here, and that will be a part of our template, and then we can copy that template to make new invoices later. So what we'll do is just put some dummy information in here, and we'll use that for calculations, and then we can create a proper invoice off of this template. So in here we're going to put product description. Really, you can type anything you like, but I'm just going to type in product 1, and we do product 2, and then product let's just undo that. Let's just do product 3. Right, we only need like 3 examples in here, but you can actually fit 18 in here in total, right? And the quantity, so we're selling a product to a customer and the quantity is 1 in here, and the quantity for product 2 is, let's say, 4, and the quantity for product 3, let's say that is let's make it an even number, let's make it 2, right here. And then the unit price for this product is, let's just say it's a small value, let's just give it £10 value, yeah? So here is £10, and this one here would be, let's say, 15. So that's £15 times 4 is 60. Then we've got 10 here, so that gives us 70, right, in total. And then this one here will be 15, right? So in theory, if we added this all up, it should come to £100. But let's just double check that. And we want to give the net value. So 1 times 10 should equal 10. But we're going to do this using formulas, right? We want to save ourselves time. So what we'll do is type in the equal sign. So we hit equals on the keyboard here. And we're going to go to the top here and click sum. In fact, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do, let's do this a slightly different way. Let's press escape key to come out of there. We're going to type in the equal sign and we're going to click on this value here, this one. And then we're going to go back to our formula here and we're going to type in the multiplication sign. So hold down the shift key and press number 8. And that types in this little star sign. We'll click on this value here and then hit enter. So 1 times £10 equals 10. Then we can just drag down to like this. And then 4 times 15 equals 60. 2 times 15 equals 30. So the total value is 60 plus 30 plus 10 equals 100, yeah? And we see 100 here. So we know the calculations are correct. And now we need to create subtotals and VAT because this total charge is not correct. So we should delete this value here and we're going to delete the word total charge. And what we're going to do is on this row here, this one here, we're going to type in subtotal. And then on this one here underneath, we're going to type in 20% VAT. And then on the final column here, this one down here, or this cell, we're going to type in total here, total. And it looks a little bit messy, so we're going to select all 3 of these here, select them with your mouse, and we're going to right align them. Let's just save this spreadsheet for now. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is actually calculate the subtotal, the VAT amount, and the total here. Now there's kind of 2 ways you could do this. You could go back to your spreadsheet, which I wouldn't advise, but you could go back here and copy these values, these ones here for example, as an example, and then paste them into here, but that's not smart. We want to auto calculate this. So the subtotal is basically any value that is that is getting added to all of these cells here, right? Up to here. So this section here, we want to add it all together in one go. So we're just going to click here and type in equals, the equals sign here. And then we're going to go to here and we're going to select sum. And then we're just going to left click here, hold down the left mouse button and select all of these cells. And then just hit the enter key and it will say 100. Now we need to calculate the VAT, and in my example it's 20%, but remember if it's 17.5% or 5%, I've shown you how to do that. I'm going to give you a couple of examples in here, but I've just written 20% here because that's what we charge in UK. So we're going to type in the equal sign, so hit the equal sign, we're going to click on subtotal, this cell here, and then inside the formula here it says J equals J35, which is this cell above. Hold down the shift key and then hit the number 8 key, and then we're going to type in 0.2 and hit enter. Hit the enter key, and 20% of 100 is 20. Then we just need the total value, and the total value is these two added together. So we can just click on this cell here, hit the equals sign, go to sum, select sum here, and then highlight those two cells. So left click and highlight both of them and hit enter, and now we've got the 120. Let's save this. So if we were to change any values in here, let's just say we change this value to, let's say this top one here. Let's just say that anyone, doesn't really matter. We can either change the value here or we can change the quantity. So if we change this to 4 and we hit enter, that will change to 60, and then all our calculations here will change and reflect that update, right? So we can change this back to 2 and we left click out, this will change back to 30, and all these values here will change back to the default values from previously. So we hit enter and you can see everything updates automatically, right? If we add a new row in, so if we were to, let's make product 4, right? So let's drag down one here. Now we've got product 4, and then the value can be 2, and let's say this is £50, and we left click. You'll notice that this value here doesn't auto update, right? Because we need to click on this cell and then drag down one to calculate that. The reason why we don't drag all the way down is we end up getting all of these zeros in here, right? We don't really want that because it's going to make our spreadsheet look a bit, or our invoice look a bit rubbish. So we can delete these ones, and we only drag down the formula when we have an extra row for it. So if we were to add all of the data in here, like products 1 to 16, right? These are just random product names, but you would give your product a proper name, and then we can just copy these values all the way down, and we'll change a few in there in a moment. Let's just delete this one, we don't need it. Let's just put in some random values in here, right? I want them to all be the same. We can't have 0 here. Let's just say 8. And we can put in some you know, values in here, and it's going to auto calculate because it has the quantity and it has the unit price. So Excel is a bit smart, right? Excel is not stupid. Excel understands that these values are here, and we're typing in unit prices, and it's looking at this column here, and it's saying, well, do you know what? All of the other ones had this formula in it, so it makes sense that I do that work for us, basically. Excel's doing it for us, right? So you don't actually have to copy it down. In this case, so we just type in 50, 40, 25. I'm going to type in some random numbers, right? 58 and 22. So the total value is, subtotal is 3,740. So let's get our calculator and make sure this maths is actually making sense. So if we do 3,740 and then we do times by 0.2, we should get, let's see, what did I do? Yeah, 748, yeah? And if we take 748 and then we, let's clear this. Let's do 748 plus 3,740, 3,740, enter, equals 4,488, 4,488. So the maths is correct, right? Good. So that's pretty much our VAT calculations done. Now the only difference for you, you might have dollar values in here. So you wouldn't see pound signs, you might see dollar values or your currency sign, and it might not say 20% here. It might say 17.5%, for example. So then we just need to modify this formula. So if we double click on it, and instead of 2 here, we'll have 175 and hit enter, then it will calculate 17.5%. If it was 10 here, then you'll just type in 0.1 and then it will be 10% of the value, right? But we're going to change it back to 20% because over here in sunny old England it's 20%. So we change that to a 2. Job done. So let's save this and close it. So this becomes our template and we can reuse this template many times over, right? And if you look at the old invoice that we did previously when there was no VAT, you see there's no calculations in here. So now really what we want to do is copy this template and make it an invoice for the last one that we did in the spreadsheet as a real working example, yeah? So if we just right click on this and copy it down, just copy here, we'll have 2 copies of this. And if you look at this this Bojo Limited, if we just this is the quick way to do this, right? So I'm just going to click on this very last one and I'm going to press F2 on my keyboard, F2, and F2 on my keyboard, or you can right click and rename if you want. But if you click here in in Windows, you just press F2 on your keyboard and then press Control C to copy, or you can right click, copy. And then we just want to rename this template here. So we're going to press F2 on our keyboard. In fact, first of all, we need to know the company name, and the company name was Jojo Limited, yeah? So we just press F2 and then press Control V and change Bojo to Jojo and then hit enter. But in fact, we need to do one more thing. We need to change the invoice number here to 5, right? And then hit enter. So then it will sit at the bottom of the spreadsheet. We want our invoices in invoice number order. And there's one thing missing from here. So we can see, actually this is invoice 13, right? I think we made more invoices as examples in the previous tutorial, but we didn't actually go and make all of those invoices. We didn't make every single one. We stopped at like at 4. So we stopped making invoice examples here, but we still added data into the spreadsheet because I wanted to show you that data entry process. So really the next one should be 13, although it doesn't make sense in here. You have to just imagine there's 12 other invoices in here, right? So really we should label this one 13 for it to follow our tutorial right now. The last invoice that we're going to create, 13 here, 13. And the date needs to change, so it's 21st of the 1st. So we just need to change this to the 21st of the 1st. So we're good to go now. If we open up this Excel spreadsheet, this new one, there's a few things wrong in here, right? So the invoice date isn't wrong, but the reason why I put all the information in the file name is so I don't have to keep checking. So I've got all most of the information I have right up here that I need. Yeah, I've got the invoice number, so I know that it should be 13. I've got the date here, it's the 21st of the 1st. So all I've got to do is change that to a 2, 21st of the 1st, 2019. All I've got to do is change this from Bojo to Jojo Limited, and I'll just keep the address there the same and the phone number, but really you put the correct address and the correct phone number in here. Then we just need to know what products we need to add. Now I remember in the spreadsheet we said it's just 2 jobs, 2 jobs, right? And total was 900, 800 for the website, 100 for the logo design. So really what you can do is select this value here, double click, highlight it, and then right click and copy. That's what I normally do. And then come back to here, and we're going to delete all of this stuff here in our template. Delete it all, because we only want 2 values in here. So we just double click in here and then press Control V to paste, and then we'll select this and press Control X to cut, and then we'll click down here and press Control V to paste. Let's cancel. Let's double click Control V to paste there. So all I'm doing is just cutting and pasting that information. I'm being a bit lazy, to be fair. I could just type it in, but you know, it is what it is. So we can almost get rid of this ×3, but that's kind of the description for it. So the quantity is normally 1. So normally when I do logo design, I say to my client I'm going to do 3 logos, but the actual product I'm selling is 1 unit. Yeah, it's 1 unit of this 3 logo design, and website design will be 1 website. And then the value in here will be 100, and the value in here will be 800, because that's what we said. The total value is 900, and here's everything done for you. There's the 900, there's the VAT, there's the total. All you got to do now is save it. You go to File, Save as PDF, and we'll click Convert to PDF here, and we'll save it here. And if we now, actually it opens up straight away, right, in the PDF reader. So if we just check it quickly, we've got the correct invoice number, we've got the correct date, we've got the address details and the company name, we've got the line items, they're the correct values, and we've got the subtotals, and we've got our banking details, or where we've got to get paid, right? Our business account and our payment terms, and any of our company registration information. And here is a little description box for you to type in some notes, right? You might type in some notes in here. That's it, job done. So now we have that invoice and it's prepared. And all we just do is take this invoice, attach it to an email. Please find attached invoice. Please make payment to following bank account. But normally I just say to my customer, please find attached invoice, and my bank details are already in the invoice itself. Here they are. That saves me having to type this information every time I send an invoice. I just say to them, my bank details are in the invoice. It's pretty obvious. I've told them payment to be made to the following bank account, right? It's obvious that the information is there. Here's the total, so they'll take that value and transfer it to this account. Job done. So let's close this and let's minimize this. We can close down this this spreadsheet, but I'll just give you a little tip, right? So if I minimize this, let's just put another row item in here quickly. Let's just right click insert, and we're just going to make it the 22nd, and we're going to make it invoice 14, and we're just going to say it's for newsletter design. So a lot of the times, instead of retyping these descriptions, you can just type in the letter N, right? News. In fact, I think it should work. Let's see. And okay, it doesn't want to work, because normally sometimes it has this like predictive thing where it'll predict what you've typed before. For whatever reason, it's not working right now. So we'll just select this cell here. That's all I really wanted to type in. Just paste it in here, and then let's send that out to ABC Limited, right? So normally I look up in the spreadsheet, because a lot of times you're doing business with the same companies. So I'll just select these two values here and then paste them here. And the newsletter design, what do we charge here? £100. Let's just make it a different value. Let's make it 120, and then just hit the tab key, and then it will auto calculate these values. Copy this, paste it down. That's what I normally do. I'm explaining it to you as I'm doing it, but normally I do this a lot quicker, right? I don't have to explain it when I'm doing it for my own business. You just type it all in. It takes like 20 seconds. And then we'll go to, what we'll do is double click in here and copy this value. ABC Limited, yeah? Copy this value. And in our brains, we've got to just remember two things for now. Just the date and the invoice number. And we don't even need to remember the invoice number. And the date is the 22nd. That's the most important. So when we minimize this and we go back to this folder, all we do, instead of copying this invoice template, we'll copy the last invoice. This one, Jojo, right? So we'll right click on it, copy it, down here, copy here. And now we've got a copy of it. I'm going to press F2, and I'm going to press the down arrow key on my keyboard, the down arrow key. And that moves the cursor to the very end of the word copy. Then I just hold down the shift key and the control key. And when I hold down, and let me just check. When I hold down the shift key and the control key, it allows me to select this content here quite quickly. And then I'll just press Control V because I copied the name of the company. And then I'll just go back to here and change this to the 22nd and change this to 14 and hit enter. And then it will sit right down at the bottom, right? And normally, I'll do that pretty quick, but I'm trying to explain it as I do it, right? Then I'll hit the enter key, and that will open up this spreadsheet. And the first thing I'll do is go to here, select it, highlight it with my mouse. So just double click, highlight it, and press Control V because you've got the company name. This one, we just double click and change it to 14. And over here, we change it to 22. And then we already know that it was for newsletter design. I can even remember the values, right? So I know that it was newsletter design times 1, right? Newsletter. In theory, I can just type this in, right? Newsletter design. In theory, we don't really need to type times 1. I think there's a space here. Let's get rid of that. And we can get rid of this row because we know that there was no more than that one job. It was just newsletter design. You could type times 1, right? And then the quantity here. And it's still going to be one quantity, or you could just get rid of this times 1. And imagine if you did 5 newsletters, then you'll type in 5 here, right? And the value was 120 from the spreadsheet, but really it was just one job. If you look in the spreadsheet, it was newsletter times 1 and it was 120. Newsletter, there's one value, unit price is 120, the net price is 120, right? If you type in 2 here, it will be 240 here. It's 1. And then everything else is done for you. Go to File, go to Save, File, Save as PDF, Convert, Save, close this. We can minimize this for a minute. And here's our spreadsheet done. Sorry, our invoice done, where we just take that attach it to an email, send it to the customer, and they should pay that invoice within whatever your terms are, right? And if we go back to our spreadsheet, let's imagine that we sent that invoice yesterday and the client has paid us today. We just go to this spreadsheet and we look at our bank. We might do this once a week rather than every day, but you can do it every day if you want. We just click green here, it's been paid. What date did it get paid? It got paid on the 22nd. Just imagine a customer paid you the very next day, right? 22nd or the 2nd, 2019. They paid the very next day. And then it was a bank transfer. In theory, we should be able to just type in, yeah. If you, rather than typing in bank transfer or check or one of these values, you can just click here and hold down the shift key and press B and then just hit enter like that, right? And then the reference is what the reference is from the banking statement. So they may have just put your invoice number there, for example, or they might have just put their company name there, for example. You can't really determine that, but let's just say they put something like Jojo Payment, something like this, right? And the only other thing we need to do is change this to a yes and save it. So that's it. We sent the invoice to the customer. We sent that, let's just hypothetically say we sent it yesterday, and then today they've paid, which is 1 day later. We can see that we invoiced it on the 21st. This is a really good customer. They paid within 24 hours. That's great for us. They paid on the 22nd of 1st, 2019. They paid via bank transfer. That's the reference that they put on there, and we just mark it as yes, and it's job done. Very, very simple, right? This line here was actually referencing invoices. Again, you should go and watch the first tutorial, but if you look at this particular line here, this particular value here, it says 50% invoice deposit. So if this customer paid this invoice, let's just mark it green. Let's just copy these values across here. I'm just as an example. It's not true. None of this data in here is true, right? It's just examples, and we paste it here. So imagine we're doing this website design job, and it's 50% deposit, but the customer needs to pay us the 50% on completion. So rather than me trying to memorize that I've got to invoice this customer 50% at some point, when I complete the project, normally any 50% invoices that I have to invoice later, I just keep a little note of them here down in the spreadsheet, just below. And then once I create that invoice, I just delete this from here, and I'll make sure the invoice is up in here, right? The actual row data. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. You may have 20 things in here that are 50% first and then 50% on completion, yeah? Normally small projects, you don't do that. You just invoice the full amount. But something of a larger amount, you might do 50% up front and then 50% on completion. That's entirely your choice. So let's save this. Okay, so let's work on the final spreadsheet that we need to look at. If we minimize this, in fact, what we do is close it, right? When we're not using it, we should close it. And if we go back a directory, we can see that we have our expenditure tracker here. So if we open this, we need to add VAT values in here. Because as we're charging VAT, depending on the type of VAT registration you have, you can also claim back VAT, right? You can claim the VAT back. So we're just going to minimize some of these columns temporarily, just so that we can see more cells here, and then I can show you this as well. So I'm going to right click here, and we're going to do exactly what we did on the previous spreadsheet. Right click twice on column H, and we add 2 more rows, and this price would be the X VAT price, right? This is the X VAT, this is the VAT amount, and this is the including VAT. Now when you receive an invoice in the post or in the PDF or wherever it is, it will show you these values. Typically it will show you these values. Sometimes you receive an invoice and it doesn't have any VAT, yeah? It just doesn't have VAT, but sometimes it does have VAT. Now this is a bit difficult depending on which country you're based in, and sometimes I buy products that's overseas and it's not in pound value, but I'm only concerned with pound values, right? Because that's what my accountant wants to see. He doesn't want to do all dollar calculations for me and so forth. That takes time, and your accountant will charge you money to sit there and start doing currency conversions from this date, what was the currency value and so forth. A lot of the payments, pretty much most of the payments, not all of them, but most of them, I'll use something like PayPal. And when you receive a PayPal invoice, or if you go and log into your PayPal account, it will tell you it was $5, but it'll also give you your local currency value as well, yeah? And it will give you the calculations as well, so it makes your life a little bit easier. And really, in theory, these prices here would have been the prices including VAT, yeah? these would actually be in the prices including VAT, because we were just putting the cost in here, the total cost including VAT. In the previous tutorial, we wasn't concerned with VAT. But as an example, just to make life a little bit easier, let's just delete all of this data here and delete this value here. And we're going to put in an excluding price, and then we'll calculate the VAT. Now, to be fair, we don't really need to calculate the VAT here, but we could do that. In theory, we could do that using a formula. So we could do it that way, right? So let's say there's a computer, and we bought that computer for, let's say it was £1,200, right, including VAT. When we look at this when we look at the invoice that was sent to us, we know that the invoice would have been for £1,000. Right, and the VAT would have been 20% of that. So we just click here, we type in equals, click this cell, and then we can do times, which is the shift 8 key, 0.2, and hit enter. So that would have been the VAT amount, and this value here will be these two added together. So we can just do equals, go over to here, click sum, select these two values and hit enter. So if we were to type in the next value, let's say it's postage stamps. I don't think stamps have VAT on them. I'm pretty sure they don't have VAT. Normally what I do here, personally myself, is I would say I spent, I don't know, £10 on stamps, right? The VAT is zero value because there's no VAT. And then the including VAT is £10 because there is no VAT. So the including VAT is basically these values added together. So in theory, we could delete this and just drag this formula down one. Right, and that's it, it's job done. The domain name is normally something like 10 quid or something, right, including VAT. So we need to get our calculator probably. In fact, we'll just make up our values, right? So let's just say it was like £8 for the domain name, and then the VAT on that would have been let's see, let's delete this. We have to be a bit careful because we typed in a null value here. We typed in zero amount, right? Let's just see. Maybe there's an easier way to do this. Let's see. 200. Yeah, we're going to have to just probably select these two values, copy them, and paste them down like this. So we're actually copying not the values, but the formula. We're copying this and pasting it down. So in rare occasions, you might have an invoice that has no VAT on it. You just have to type in a null value here and then just copy the formula down this way. But when it has VAT in it, you just copy these two cells and paste them down. So this one was from an American company, right? And normally when you buy something in the UK which is outside of the European Union, you don't pay VAT. So let's just say that this was for $10. Make it nice and easy, right? So I type in other currency here because I want to know what currency did I pay in originally. Let's just put the decimal places in here. And when we looked at our credit card statement or our bank statement, it will tell us how much that actual value is in pounds, right? So if we were to check that, I think let's even do a little check here. Let's just go to Google. Let's just type in pound to USD, and let's just type in £10 to USD. So it's £10 in USD is $12.91 at the moment. That's the exchange rate, right? $12.91. So if we copy this value, really, let's see if I'm doing this right. So this is $10. So really we want to do it the other way around, right? So we've just done this wrong. We want to do 10 USD. It's not £10, it's 10 USD to pound, and it's £7.74, right? So probably in your credit card statement or in your PayPal account, it will show as £7.74. And in this case, because we're buying something from overseas, there is no VAT. There's no VAT, £7.74. This is how I do it, and this is how it works for me. So you might want to sit down with your accountant. What I would advise you do is you create these spreadsheets, and maybe you put in the first 10 or 15 entries into all of the spreadsheets and also the invoices as well, and create all of that content. You can even create just maybe 10 rows, right? And then send it to your accountant and say to your accountant, this is what I'm doing, is this okay? And he may advise you to do it slightly differently, or she may advise you to do it slightly differently, right? But for me and my accountant, the way that we work, he's happy for me to do it this way, and I can do my calculations and all of everything I need to do myself in my business for the whole year. And once I've done the whole year, I archive this data and then I create a new copy of it to start a fresh new year. Yeah, something like that. So let's say mobile phone, what is this, SIM card? Mobile phone SIM card. Let's say that was like 20 quid, £20. And then really that wouldn't be right, yeah? So let's see. Including VAT would be £20, right? So let's just get our calculator. I'll rather show you this quickly. So let's just do VAT Calculator. Right, and we can click on here and we can say £20, but we can say remove that. So it's 16.67 and £33.33, right? So this will actually be the value here. And then if we just copy these cells and paste them down, we get the 333 and the 20, yeah? And in staff wages, you don't pay VAT on this. So it's highlighted in orange and this one's blue. So normally I do green ones are all UK payments, blue ones are all foreign payments, right? Outside of the country. So anything in this spreadsheet that's blue, I know that I paid a foreign currency, whether it's euros or pounds or whatever it is, I put the value in here. And then staff wages, let's just say you've got one staff member and you're paying them, I don't know, 1,500 a month, and there is no VAT on this. There's no VAT, right? It's 1,500. That's what it is. It's a part of your cost. You may want to track your staff wages in a separate spreadsheet. Normally these things are things that are purchased like within the business, and then like wages and stuff like that, maybe you want to track that in a separate spreadsheet, because normally you pay your wages once a month, right? So you maybe have a different spreadsheet that has 12 entries once a month for all of the wages that you're paying out. Or you could create another spreadsheet that shows individual people in your company and how much you're paying them every month. So you need to think about your business, how it works best for you, right? But then we can just click here, select all of these cells and then do auto sum and then hit enter. And that didn't work for some reason. Let's try that again. Let's just click here. Let's select these three and let's just do auto sum. Yeah, you have to select from left to right, yeah, this way. Then we can see the total ex-VAT, the total VAT, and the total including VAT. Now, typically that amount there would go to the taxman, right? In fact, sorry, this amount here is what you're going to claim back from the taxman for that period, yeah? But again, I'm just creating these spreadsheets. You need to sit down with your accountant and make sure the accountant is happy in the way that you're doing things, right? And if they're happy, there should be no reason why they're not happy with this. This is actually saving them a lot of time because you're doing a lot of the work that they would normally have to do. If you go to your accountant with a big shoebox full of receipts and invoices and it's all disorganized, or even if it's all organized in nice folders, this data still has to be entered in somewhere. You still have to do all the calculations. So if you're doing this yourself, you should be saving your accountant a lot of time. And if you're saving your accountant a lot of time, he should be charging you, or she should be charging you a lot less. You shouldn't be paying top accounting fees. You should be paying a lot less because you're doing all of the work. Not all of it, but the data entry. And data entry normally takes a lot of time, right? It's a laborious task. And accountants will charge you quite a lot of money to do this stuff. So why not do it yourself? And most importantly, if you're doing this yourself, you can see where your costs are, right? So if you're buying something, let's just right click here, let's just do a new row. Let's copy this one. I'm going to copy this row, paste it down. I'm going to copy this value here and paste it into here. And I'm going to change this to something like the 15th. So on the 15th for the first, and this is the date that we paid it, right? We need to state when do we pay this particular payment. So we might receive an invoice on a particular day, but we may not pay it for, I don't know, if it's something you're buying from a customer, you may not pay it for 7 days or 14 or even 30 days later, you might pay the invoice. In this case, let's just say that we paid it the next day on the 16th, right? And the company was, let's just say, just going to make this up, right? It's a company called BB Internet and they provide you with internet access, right? And you pay it from your debit card and it's UK based and they're charging you something silly like, I don't know, £60 plus VAT. So let's say the total charge is £72 every month for your internet access, right? So it's quite expensive, yeah? And it might be that your contractors run out and they're charging you the most that they can possibly charge you. So you need to go back to this company and just renegotiate your internet access. Once your contract is ended, you can leave that company, you can switch to a different internet provider. But they want to keep your business, so if they want to keep your business, they need to give you a good deal. Right? So normally I'll go back to my internet provider, and every year when my contract's about to end, 30 days before it's going to end, I call them up and I say to them, you know, you're charging me, I don't know, whatever it is that, let's just say, for example, they're charging me £32 a month plus VAT for my internet. I'll go back to them and say to them, I want a better deal. I'm going somewhere else because they want to keep my business. So is it better for them to give, they might even knock it down by a little bit. They might just knock it down to £31 a month, but they're getting £31 from me rather than another company. So remember, when you're buying products, especially like internet access and mobile phones and stuff like this, the power is in your hands, right? It's not in the company that's selling you the product. They want your money, so they need to cut you a good deal. So always go and negotiate deals for those types of things, like your internet and your mobile phone bills, things that you're paying monthly, definitely things that you pay every single month, right? I wouldn't go cheap on your accountant. You want a good accountant that advises you well. So good accountants will help you to save money. So you want to get a good accountant, yeah? But these sort of costs, you should go and negotiate them and try and get them down. That's got nothing to do with bookkeeping, but that's just business advice in general, let's say. Let's save this. So now we've got our calculations here for our excluding, including VAT, and our including VAT total, yeah? Right? So we have all of that information. Whether this is 100% correct, kind of 50-50, but we know that this column here is always going to be correct, yeah? This value here. Whether you put the including VAT value in here when there's no VAT, that's kind of debatable, right? Because really this value doesn't include any VAT, but it is a null value, so it kind of makes sense to me. For me, it makes sense. But it's this amount that you're going to claim back, and that's the most important value. That's what you're going to claim back when you do your VAT return, right? Okay, so let's just do a quick summary before we finish. Let's just open up this spreadsheet. And the whole idea of this spreadsheet was to keep track of our invoices going out, who has paid us and who hasn't paid us. And if they haven't paid us, and if it's gone past a certain duration, right, if it's over 30 days or your terms are 14 days or 7 days or pay me next day, whatever it is, at least you've got a spreadsheet now that shows you, don't chase these people. They've already paid you. Leave them alone. They're good customers. The ones that haven't paid and you've invoiced them 2 months ago, it might be a good reason they've not paid you. They might have been on holiday or whatever, they've forgotten, you know. Just go and chase them up, write a nice little email. By the way, this invoice I sent to you on the 2nd, our payment terms were 7 days and it still hasn't been paid, and now it's the 22nd, please make payment. And lo and behold, that money, you know, gets transferred to your bank account the next day or whatever it is. So I use this spreadsheet in my business, and I don't have 15 rows. At the end of the year, I might have 50 rows, 100 rows, or 300 rows, depending on how many different types of jobs that I do. But this spreadsheet becomes very useful for you as a business owner, because then at least you know who owes you money at the end of the year. Because when it comes to the end of the year, you've got to do your accounting, and those become debtors in your business. They owe you money, and you can go and chase them for that money. But if you don't know, then you've got a problem. If all you've got is a bank statement and you've got to try and work out who's paid you, who hasn't paid you, once you've done 100, 200 invoices, it's going to be an impossible task. And I learned that the hard way, which is why I created this system myself, right? I didn't learn this from someone. I had to sit down and really think about it. How can I run a bookkeeping system for myself that's not going to cost me any money? Because you can go and buy software, there's a lot, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's a lot of online tools that you can purchase for a monthly fee, and that might cost you $30 or £25 or £30 or £15 or whatever it is. But if you can have a simple system like this, and if you can save that money, then you can take that money and invest it into something else, or you could offset that against what your accountant charges you. So instead of giving these online companies your money to run your bookkeeping and do all of this stuff, you can use these spreadsheets and then use that money you've saved to help fund the cost to pay your accountant. So in theory, you're saving money, right? That's kind of the idea in business. You've got to try and save money and invest that savings into something else, marketing or whatever it might be, a new website or logos or whatever it might be that you need for your business. Yeah? So this spreadsheet is very, very powerful for me in my business, and hopefully you'll see the advantages of using this system. Now, let's just imagine we've done a whole year's worth of business, right? And business, your yearly accounts, it's not from like the 1st of January to the 1st of January the following year. It's when you started your business. That's the day you started your business, and exactly 1 calendar year from that date will be your end of year accounts. So let's imagine we've finished all of this, right? And we've done our 1 year end of accounts. Then we just create a new spreadsheet or a new folder. And in that folder, we call this yearly accounts. And inside of that folder, we'll hit enter key. In fact, we'll do this slightly different way, right? I'm going to drag this to the side, and I'm going to hold down the control key on my keyboard, the control key, and I'm going to double click on yearly accounts here. Double click. And that will open it in its own window. So now I can drag and drop things into here, right? But before I do that, I create a folder and I call it 2019. You can see these are 2019, this is our 2019 work. And I just open up this folder, and pretty much you can copy all of these 3 elements here. Not the yearly invoice one, right? These 3, 1, 2, 3. Just right click, go over here, copy here, and that's your end of year accounts pretty much done, right? You might have to do a bit more work on it, but you've got every single invoice that you sent out in the year. You've got every single cost in your business documented for the whole year, and you've got every single invoice that you sent out to a customer, and you know which ones have paid and which ones haven't. So then you can easily click on paid here, undo this, click no, and then click OK, and then you can just do an auto sum. So you can select here and you can auto sum, and at the okay, that doesn't want to work. So if you click here and then highlight all of these cells with your mouse and click auto sum, you can see that you're owed £1,242.50 excluding VAT, and the total amount including VAT and the VAT amount. So you know how much at the end of the year or the end of the week or the end of the day or the end of the month, you can go and do this check, and you can see how much money is owed to your business. And you can start chasing that up. Now you've got a nice blue spreadsheet here, and you can go and call all these customers and say, please pay me, I need the money, right? Then you select these values here and you delete them, and you can go to here and you can undo no and tick yes, and then click OK, and then you can do the same thing here. So you left click, highlight the spreadsheet, click auto sum, and that doesn't want to work for me either. So let's press Ctrl Z. Let's select these values here and auto sum. Alright, so something ain't right there. So let's go back to here and let's go to select all and click OK. And let's just delete these values here, these ones here. Yeah, delete them. These are the grand totals. And then in theory, if we go back here and select yes and click OK, then select these and then auto sum, now you'll get the values correctly, right? Here they are, yeah? It's because there was a formula sitting above this formula that was hidden, which is why it wasn't working, yeah? Now you can see how much you have actually been paid. So in theory, if we did know, we should be able to just auto sum it now. It's already selected those rows. Just auto sum, that's how much we're owed. Right, delete. Go back here, select all, click OK, and then click these ones here, and then auto sum, and now you can see your grand totals again. So this spreadsheet can become very powerful when you want to find out who owes you money, how much money have you received, and who you need to chase. And at the end of the year, you're going to have lots and lots and lots of rows of data in here. You may only do 12 invoices a year. You may do one big invoice at the end of every month, and you may only invoice one company because you're doing business with that one company, some sort of consultancy or something. And there's one big chunky invoice that you send out every year or every month, and you only have 12 entries in here. Or you might have 1,000 in here. Or you might have 10,000 in here. Hopefully you do have 10,000 because you'll be making a lot of money, and I'll be happy for you. Okay, let's save this and let's close this. So now we have an archive, and normally I take this data, I put it on a USB stick, and I go to my accountants and I sit down with them and I explain everything in this spreadsheet. You know, and there should really be a few other things that you need to document, things like how much money you've taken out of the business yourself. So you should have a spreadsheet really that shows how much you've taken out, and normally you know, maybe you take out, my advice to you is don't take out money every single day. Take out larger amounts. So maybe every 3 months or every 6 months or at the end of every month, you take out your wage, right, as a flat number, rather than taking out small amounts very often, because that gets messy. It's better to just take I don't know, £3,000 out of your business at the end of every month, rather than £100 every day or £300 every day for 30 days or whatever it is, right? Because then you've got 30 things to document. It's better to just document one big payment for yourself at the end of every month, if you can do that. If you can't, then you need to think about that, right? So one other thing I want to show you before we finish, this is the last thing. Make backups of your content. So I'm going to select these two spreadsheets, these two here, and I'm going to right click on them and drag them into the archive and say copy here. It's going to say, do you want to replace the existing spreadsheet, because there's already a file in there that has the same name. I'm going to say skip this file. And if we go in there, you can see that we've got Invoice Tracker V1, V2, we've got our Expenditure Tracker, and we've got the Invoice Tracker template that we created, right? So really in here, what I would normally do is, let's say once a month or every couple of weeks, or even once a week, it's entirely your choice. You click on this Invoice Tracker, you press F2, and you change the value from 2 to 3. And then in your Expenditure Tracker, you click here, and then you change that to a 2. But try and keep these numbers in sync if possible. So really you want to try and change that to a 3, right? And you select them and you drag and drop them into here and you say copy here. And then you click on these ones and you change them to 4 and 4. So the next time you drag and drop them and copy them into here, it won't ask you, it won't say that these numbers already exist, because the last numbers were 3s, right? 3s. And your new numbers are 4s. And we're basically making an archive. So if we open up this spreadsheet and it crashes, it's never happened to me in 16 years, right? I've never had that problem. But it's better to be safe than sorry. And you can also do the same thing in here. You could create a 0 dash invoice archive. And this data is so small, it's not going to take up a lot of space, right? All of these invoices, all of this data in here is less than 1 megabyte. You can just right click and then just copy here. And then when you get more spreadsheets done, you can select those new spreadsheets, or you can select all of them again. Just right click here, copy here, and it might ask you to overwrite some files and just say replace in destination. And then it will add all the new files and it will just overwrite the existing ones, or you can skip them. You can right click, copy here, and then you can say skip these files, but it will only add the new files in. So you can just say skip here, right? So now you've got a nice archive of your invoices as well, and you've got archive of all your data. This asset folder, just for reference, was just the logos that we used inside of the invoice template. Okay, let's close this. I've done enough talking, I think. Hopefully all of this will help you in your business, and you can create your own invoicing system. Try and modify it so that it suits your business. This is not the perfect solution. You may need to modify it in some way so that it suits your business and the way that you work. But it's a good foundation to work from. So there's 4 parts to this tutorial. I'll put links to those in the I'll put the first 3 tutorials links in the YouTube description, or if you're watching this on Facebook, you'll see it in the description there as well. And you can go and watch them first 3 tutorials, and hopefully those ones will get you up to speed, and then you can watch this one. We're at the end of it, so hopefully you've already watched the first 3. But in any case, hopefully all of this helps you. Okay, that's the end of this tutorial, and I look forward to seeing you on the next DCP web tutorial.